Okay, what do we have in here otherwise? The terminal. Oh, no, we're not. Oh, I thought we were in the... Dang it. I believe we were actually down there. But that's gonna be for later then. So I have four different stories here, huh? Gotcha. Let's start with the first one that we saw here. Something Down Under. Come on, I want to show you something. For a moment, Tuan thought of grabbing Hannah by the hand to lead her, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. Something about the idea of holding a hand seemed simultaneously too childish and too intimate for him to try it this early in the night. Oh? Where are you taking me? Said Hannah. Someplace cool, said Tuan. He located a ladder leading down from the lower level and gestured to it. After you! And now you're asking me to be the first one to jump into the gaping maw of whatever monsters might be lurking down there? Hannah shook her head ruefully. Where have all the gentlemen gone? Tuan smirked. I think a gentleman might say, ladies first. And I think a lady might say, I'll stand quietly behind while you deal with this street ruffian. Go ahead, barrel face first into danger. I'll follow behind. Well, said Tuan, technically I'm going feet first. You know, going down verticality and all that. My head is actually the last part of me that will be arriving in the lower level. Are we going to keep standing here bantering, or are you going to show me whatever's down there? Said Hannah. You seemed enthused by the idea only a few moments ago. I guess I just got distracted by your cattiness. Hannah got on the ladder on top of Tuan. Don't look up. Trust me, you won't get the show you're expecting if you do. Ooh, she shouldn't have yelled that out. That idea was never in my mind, but she put it in my mind. Fine. Tuan descended the ladder, keeping his gaze decidedly horizontal. After arriving on the level below, he studied his feet until Hannah landed beside him. Hannah joined him in studying his feet. Oh, please don't tell me you're one of those freaks who's obsessed with his sneakers. Nah, said Tuan. Just the kind who finds the sight of his own shoelaces a safe distraction from whatever he's trying to avoid looking at. Oh, good, said Hannah. Did you hear about that brawl in Darwin? No, said Tuan. When was actually Darwin, California? You know, these international news sites always try to sucker me into reading stories about what's happening in America. Anyway, nobody was hospitalized, but several kids walked away from that show with black eyes to show to their friends. I can understand that collectibles are a big deal, but come on, we live in a society. I don't think I'll ever understand sneakerheads. Wait, that's actually a thing? Said Tuan. Yeah, said Hannah. You didn't know about it? It's really big with hip youngsters. I guess I don't pay very close attention to the behavior of hip youngsters. I've gotta say, I don't believe that's a real thing over here. At least I haven't really met anyone who was that obsessed over their sneakers. Not really, no. Not really. Well, that was evident from the moment I laid eyes on you, said Hannah. But you seem adventurous enough. Maybe one day you'll encounter one of them. On that note, what are we here to see? Tuan led Hannah to one of the portholes of the room they were in. Look at this! Whoa! That is indeed a porthole. No, I mean, what's on the other side? Yep, said Hannah. That certainly is what on the other side of that porthole. Hold on, said Tuan. There's supposed to be a... He trailed off. A what? I don't want to spoil the surprise, said Tuan. Well, you have definitely replaced my awe and wonder of seeing the sea through a porthole in the basement of a Melbourne café with a feeling of disappointment that I'm not seeing whatever it is I'm supposed to be seeing. These sentences are so long to read, I'm out of breath by the end of it. Oof. Tuan checked several of the other portholes. This is weird. It's usually... The sound of something landing behind him caused Tuan and Hannah to spin around and face the ladder they'd just climbed down. A girl with twin tails stood up from a couching stance and dusted herself off. Ashley? Did you just jump down? Said Tuan. Yep, said the girl. It's only 10 meters. Only 10 meters? Oh yeah, totally fine. I guess she is a half a cyborg. She's got them expensive expansions, doesn't she? And to think that we wasted our time climbing down the ladder like schmucks, said Hannah. So, Tuan stood gawking at the girl for a few moments. Sorry, I don't remember your name. I'm Ashley, said the girl. Yeah, the two ponytails kinda gave it away. I guess turnabout is fair play, because I don't remember your name either. It's Stuart. And I'm Hannah. You two know each other? Hannah said to Tuan as she pointed at Ashley. Yes, said Tuan. We know each other so well that we greet each other by asking each other what our names are. That is a great greeting ritual, said Hannah. We should try to popularize it. You know, normalize introducing yourself by name, even to people you met before. I bet it would save some people from a lot of awkwardness. Not everyone is good with names, you know. That's a great idea, said Ashley. I'm going to start doing that. Hannah shot a glance at Tuan and he grinned. So, what are you doing down here? Said Hannah. Here to cook us out? Is this a no patron zone? No, it's no problem, said the girl. But I was eavesdropping. Tuan's eyes widened and he looked at Hannah, but Hannah seemed to be more amused than upset at Ashley's appearance. And, said Ashley, it sounded like you weren't seeing what you wanted to be seeing, so I thought I'd come down and take you lower. Lower? How low does this go? Oh, where am I being taken now? Said Hannah. About 1,000 fathoms is where things start to get interesting, said Ashley. How much is 1,000 fathoms? Said Hannah. Ashley paused. It's about 1,800 meters, said Tuan. Sounds like a lot of climbing, said Hannah. Guess I should have brought better ladder climbing shoes. That sounds like the lament of a non-sneakerhead, said Tuan. Oh, no need to climb, said Ashley. Just hang on a sec. Ashley walked up to a panel with several mechanical levers, and after several moments, the water outside the porthole began changing hue. Does the whole room lower? What was that? Said Hannah. Swordfish? Said Ashley. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was a sailfish, said Tuan. I'm pretty sure he made that up, said Hannah. No, really, said Tuan. They're a marlin and they have a long bill like a swordfish, but they also have a broad erect dorsal fin. If you had left the word erect out of that sentence, I might have believed you, said Hannah. No, he's probably right, said Ashley. I've seen him down here with marine biology books. He's a huge nerd, so I definitely trust his word over mine. Well, I'm glad that's settled, said Hannah. The part about you being a nerd, I mean. I think the sailfish with an erect dorsal fin still sounds kind of sketchy to me. Eventually the room stopped descending, and Hannah looked outside the porthole. Now I see what you were excited about. There's a lot of stuff going on down here. Hey, nerd boy. What's this one called? Tuan tried to follow Hannah's pointing finger. Which one are you, pointing at? That chart-looking thing? It looks like it's big as a whale. Oh, said Tuan. That's a whale shark. See? Said Hannah. I knew you were just making up names. No, that one's right, said Ashley. That one's the few ones I know because it's so easy to remember. It's a cross between a whale and a shark. Whale shark! So, said Hannah, this is the level of the ocean where interspecies romance happens? There isn't actually any whale DNA in the whale shark, said Tuan. It just has that name because of its size. It's the largest known species of fish. Hannah shook her head. First it's a whale shark, then it's just a shark, now it's a fish. Tuan, the thing you need to know about making stuff up is that you need to stick to one version of the story. Sharks are fish, said Tuan. You didn't know that? They have gills. I'm kind of surprised you didn't know. I don't think you're the one who should be surprised by any of this, said Hannah. Everything that you've shown me down here is thoroughly weird. Me not knowing that sharks are fish? That seems very normal to me. Hey, Ashley, did you know that sharks are fish? Nope, said Ashley. This is my first time hearing it too. Must be another made-up Tuan fact about marine biology, said Hannah. Tuan shrugged his shoulders. I guess so. The truth is that I'm just really creative and good at making up so-called facts. The part about me being a nerd who spends all his time studying marine biology must be a lie. No, I still believe that part, said Hannah. Me too, said Ashley. The trio stood for a few moments, wavering between looking out the porthole and looking at each other. The awkwardness hit just a few seconds before Ashley spoke up. Anyway, I figured this is where you wanted to hang out, so here you go. 2,000 fathoms. Give me a holler if you want to go deeper. Ashley walked to the ladder and disappeared through the hole in the ceiling. Is she gonna climb all the way back up? Or is it one of those quantum hallways thingies? Oh, wait, that's the end of it. Okay. Ooh. There we go. What else do we have? Right, Ashley's inventions. Actually, first let me check these bottles. What, Tanqueray? What the hell is Tanqueray? Tanqueray 10. Samantha sat alone at the bar, taking occasional sips from a glass of gin. She wasn't sure that tonight was a night she really wanted to be drinking, but the comforting familiarity of the gin kept her raising the glass to her lips. The drink didn't set well in her stomach, but each sip left her feeling warm, and with each sip the knot in her stomach seemed to become less and less noticeable. And so, she kept drinking. The green bottle had become something of a friend over the years, and with it she shared the kind of friendship, one not out of any sort of affection so much as one of familiarity and convenience. Drinking the Tanqueray neat. The what? Tanqueray? Tanqueray? I have no clue what the meaning of that word is, but I'll just continue reading. Took her back to the first apartment she'd lived in after moving from her hometown in New Mexico to the parts of Melbourne that bordered the docks. The same apartment where she discovered that liquor was vastly cheaper when bought by the bottle than when bought by the glass in the setting of a bar, and where she learned that the cinnamon and coriander gave the gin enough flavor without the need for mixers. The Tanqueray was her coming-of-age drink, and consequently, she enjoyed a private relationship with it. Most of the alcohol she had consumed in the past year had been on the job, but gin was something she kept hidden away at home, for the private moments when it was only her, a green bottle, and an overwhelming sense of dread. This whole game has been a little bit about alcoholism, hasn't it? I mean, it being a cafe where coffee and necromancy should be the main themes, alcoholism is a very, very secure third place, man. How much talk about booze there has been, it's quite a lot, actually. Samantha emptied the glass, and for a moment continued to hold the empty glass up to her mouth, looking down her nose at the bottom of the glass, as if asking God for a sign that this was the time to stop drinking. She had no intention of stopping, but she figured it was worth giving the everlasting a chance to interdict if she was transgressing by drinking so heavily. No divine intervention came to stop her from raising her hand to signal Maddie for another drink. There was a small throbbing inside her ears that seemed to think it was a bad idea, but she was sure that was the result of hearing damage, and not the voice of God ringing in her ears. She was fairly sure that she didn't believe in God. Something about her Catholic upbringing kept her occasionally checking in just to confirm that her suspicions, that there wasn't anyone upstairs judging her on her hedonism. Still, if there was any time or place to question her lack of belief in God, that cafe that seemed to exist in the borderland between life and death seemed as good a place as any to do it. Her mother had told her that it was only by the grace of God that she walked the earth, and if it wasn't the force of God that kept this cafe's door open, it was certainly something otherworldly. Okay, that final bit was kind of funny though. But damn, alcoholism is such a huge theme in this game, and it was never mentioned before. So that one, and then there was still the matter of... yeah, the letter suits, so yeah, but first Ashley's inventions 2. Ashley's original ideas. Do not steal! Floor sweeper! My last experiment with the kitchen assistant version 1 was a big success if you measure success in how quickly it was able to pulverize things generally. The throwing object at the ceiling technique does not work for pulverizing carrots or celery for salads, but it is very good at pulverizing halogen lamp bulbs. Oh, really? This made me think about how much better it would be if the floor were self-cleaning. You mean like Roombas? They already exist, Ashley. Ashlings can sweep up a bit, but usually all they do is move dust around, and it's hard to get them to actually collect debris and put it into the trash. If the entire floor were covered with air jets, any small bits of debris that dropped onto the floor would get quickly whisked away towards a corner, where a vacuum or something could suck them up into a disposal chute. That would require a lot of technical installations inside of your house. Not really practical. Having a bunch of air jets required a lot of power to run. But air isn't the only fluid that could be used to carry dirt and dust and broken charge of halogen lamp bulbs. Don't tell me you're gonna put your whole house in the water and make it work like it was some kind of Minecraft redstone contraption to collect crops. But in this case, dust. Please don't tell me you're gonna do that. Water could also probably do the trick. Oh god. Oh no. Oh, she's really going there. The issue is that water would damage the floor. Depending on what floor you're using. Ripping up the wooden floorboards and pouring concrete would solve that problem. And we could mold the concrete in a way that its shape directed the water towards a drain in the floor. That would mean no more need to sweep. We could just hose down the entire cafe at the end of the day and it would drain itself. That is a thing, that is an actual thing, that already exists. And it would be dry by morning. That's actually a really good idea that doesn't require any special equipment or specialized hardware once the floor is installed. I should copyright that idea to make sure that nobody steals it. Update! After several days of calling the Australian Copyright Council, I finally talked to a person who told me that what I want to cover inventions is a patent, not a copyright. After several more days of trying to contact the patent office, I was told that someone already used my idea. I wonder if it's possible to sue someone for stealing your idea before you came up with it. No. The answer is just no, Ashley. No. Sadly not. Well, wait. Sadly? No. Luckily not. Would turn everything into chaos if it were. It's pretty unfair that I'm not able to patent an idea just because I'm too young to have had the idea before someone else claimed it. Knife Retriever version 2? Previously, I discarded the idea of using a large electromagnet to retrieve the knife that was lodged in the ceiling. My research has led me to believe that the knife in the ceiling is actually stainless steel, which contains iron. Iron is ferromagnetic, which is weird because you'd think that only ferro would be ferromagnetic, but I guess iron is too. It literally means iron. It's the literal translation. Does she not know that? Also, I was able to find a gas-powered generator that could supply enough power to run an electromagnet for a short period of time, so I don't need to worry about the circuit breakers. That is one freakishly huge sentence yet again. Shorten them, please. It requires a lot of gas, but luckily getting the knife down only requires running the electromagnet for a short period of time. I created the electromagnet by spooling a power cable around a piece of iron. The good news is that the electromagnet is great at pulling knives from where they are. The bad news is that I pulled all of the knives from the drawers that were within a meter of it when I turned it on. Also, the knife in the ceiling wasn't affected because it was too far away. I looked it up and magnetic attraction follows an inverse cube law. I'm not sure what the opposite of a cube is. Maybe it's a sphere? Wait, inverse cube law, opposite, those are two different words. If you mean literally inverse, if you invert a cube, you get a cube. Right? If you invert a shape, you get the same shape. But if you're talking about the opposite of a cube, that could mean something different. And then I guess you could say a sphere, sure. But then if you have a pentagon or whatever, wait, no, not a pentagon. How would you call a three-dimensional pentagon? How would that be called? I don't know how it would be called, but if you inverse that, you would also get a sphere. It's confusing, actually. I'll just continue. But the more I think about it, the more it makes sense that the objects further away aren't pulled as strongly by a magnet. That's basic logic. The Beseecher 5000! Beseecher? After my lack of success with the Knife Retriever V2, I asked Jay for help and he lifted me up so I was able to pull the knife from the ceiling. He asked how long it had been up there and I said, not long. And he said, more than a day. And I said, oh, it wasn't up for a day. Which is technically true. I'm glad that asking Jay for help succeeded, but I think in the future there needs to be a way to automate this process of asking Jay for help. I think I need to create a robot with speech capabilities that is capable of asking for favors. Then I could have the robot ask for favors on my behalf. I think this is a good idea because usually when you ask someone for a favor, then you owe them a favor afterward. But if it were a robot asking for the favor, then the robot would owe the favor, not you. Then the person would ask the robot to do them a favor and the robot would say, sorry, I'm only capable of talking to people, not doing tasks. Then if the person asked the robot to ask you for a favor, the robot would say, I'm sorry, my battery's running low, and then it would self-destruct. And there is the chaotic version of her that we so love. There had to be something there. Couldn't have been just a robot asking for favors. It had to be more. She had to turn it into a bomb. She had to. It would be expensive to build a new robot every time you had to ask for another favor. But it would be better than having to owe someone a bunch of favors after they helped you. Okay. Well, that was that little story. Meaning, only one of them remains. A letter from Sophie Cordova. My dear Maddie, thank you for getting in touch with me. Or perhaps I should say, congratulations. I make such a point of making myself hard to find that it's always a surprise to hear from anyone. I sometimes find myself fearing the day when I'll be contacted by someone who isn't a fan of mine and who is more interested in locking me away than seeking my advice. One might think that people interested in putting me away would be more capable and in possession of more resources than those like yourself who simply possess curiosity. And yet, it's always the latter who manage to break through the veil I've erected between myself and the outside world. You're the first in over 3 years to manage this, so it is now time for me to find another hiding place. If your next letter manages to find me, I'll truly have something to worry about. If you're looking for a solution to the problem you outlined in your letter, I'm afraid I must disappoint you. My business is that of teaching people how to ask the right questions so that they can find the answers themselves, not giving the answers. After all, the most worthwhile answers are the ones I haven't found yet. That kind of feels like a scam, man. That actually kind of feels like a scam. But sure, whatever. That being said, your question about time transference is an issue of special interest to me. The idea of storing vitality within living non-sentient creatures such as a plant is one that I've long considered. The issue has always been one of retrieval. If you did find a way to transfer vitality from a plant into a sentient creature, it would result in tremendous discharge of energy. Such a great discharge that I'm sure it would kill whatever subject was on the receiving end. Absorbing life force from something doesn't seem that it would do you much good if it kills you in the process. Consequently, I've never experimented with this process myself. Even if I have earned a reputation for being a rule breaker, there are certain things that are simply off limits. Your idea of using a non-living soul as a target for transference is an interesting one. No risk of killing the vitality recipient if it's already dead. Of course, that would require finding a way to infuse a non-living soul with vitality in the first place. And being that most reanimation techniques involve a significant discharge of energy, using the vitality transfer as the trigger would effectively be killing two birds with one stone. Of course, reanimation is a far cry from necromancy, but if your only problem is one of living on borrowed time, well, you know better than I do how to resolve the particulars. I'm an alchemist, not a necromancer. If I can offer you one piece of advice, these kind of vitality transfers are not something to be experimented with. Any time that time is borrowed or lent, you're making an alteration to a ledger that the powers that be keep a very careful eye on. Even the smallest of disturbances is enough to attract their notice, and attracting their notice will put a quick end to any research you might be in the midst of. So, if you're going to try vitality transference, don't experiment. Go straight for the end goal. If you're going to catch the attention of those whose attention you do not want, make sure that the endeavor is worthwhile. If you have a good reputation, it would be a shame to squander it on something so trivial as allowing a mouse a few extra seconds on his side of mortality. As they say, go big or go home. I appreciate you taking your time to write to me. You've given me new things to pontificate on, and perhaps one day you may see the result of that pontification in one of my future volumes. Of course, it should go without saying that you won't be able to reach me again, at least not the same way you did before. I've been found, and that means I need to do a better job of covering my tracks. While I rationally hope that I'll never find myself in a position where a fan's letter finds me, there's always a part of me that hopes that one of my readers will manage to track me down. Who knows? Perhaps the next letter I receive at my next residence will come from you. But I'm sure that you have better things to do with your time than try to track me down. There is a time to adopt the posture of a student and focus on learning. But it's obvious to me that you are someone who has spent plenty of time learning things and is now ready to do things. So, do things, Maddie. Do big things, do dangerous things, do things that break the rules. Not all rules need to be broken, but if you're smart enough to find me, you're smart enough to know which rules are worth breaking. I'm grateful that it's always the reader mail that seems to find me, and never the demands to appear before some kind of tribunal or committee. I used to think that this was a long string of extremely good luck on my part, but over time, I've come to realize that those who wish me gone lack the insight of the people who earnestly read my work. Readers such as yourself, who are the only ones who truly know me well enough to understand how I think and where I would hide. Bravo, Maddie. You've demonstrated your ability to think like me. Now, you must learn to think like yourself. Yours truly, Sophie Cordova. Okay, so she's the one who wrote that tome that we read in at the end of episode 1, I think. Yeah, I think. So, door opening now? Yes, I've checked everything here. Now, do we have to go up all the way? Is it gonna be taking us... Wait. Weren't we, like, supposed to be really deep? And now we aren't? It's even called the game room, okay. But yeah, I already did these ones. I'll just go down. Yeah, this is a side story that will have to wait. But now we know who these characters are already. They got introduced. Or should I go? Wait, no, it's a side story. They literally call it a side story, so I should do it at the end. The same thing here. Oh, wait, what are you? Who's that, Samantha? Another character that got introduced, huh? So 1, 2, 3 side stories. Or do they count as one and that is the second one? I'm not sure. Anyway, this was episode 5 of Necrobarista. Hope you enjoyed. Please do leave behind a like if you did. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!